Hey there, welcome to DIY Projects with Pete. Today I'm going to show you how to take a log like this and turn it into a bear like that. Let's get started.
I'll start out by harvesting some deadfall out in the forest. For today's carving, I'm going to cut a 3-foot piece of lodgepole pine that's about 1 foot in diameter. This is a good size for a smaller sized bear, maybe to put out on the front steps. I used a couple sheets of plywood to give the log a base to carve it on, and I attached that plywood from the other side of the log using some 5-inch long wood screws. I like to start out by making a cut across the top of the log to level it off. Then I'll cut a slant toward the back side, which will help form the back of the head and the ears. Next, I'll block out the ears by making a cut straight down, then cut in to create the top of the bear's snout. Here I'm starting to shape the outside of the ears. For this carving, we'll try to keep it somewhat symmetrical, so what I do to one side, I'll do to the other. Here I'm cutting the sides for the snout. I'm also making a cut toward the top to separate the ears, followed by coming in at an angle to start shaping them. Now I'm cutting in from the side to block out the cheeks. Notice I'm doing all of the main cuts to block out the bear with the largest of the 3 chainsaws. This is a steel 036 saw. As I progress, I'll move to smaller saws, which are a little less powerful, but they're lighter, easier to maneuver, and the smaller bar makes it possible to create finer details on the carving. The next cut goes in to define the head. Now remember, this is the technique I'm using for this specific caricature welcome bear, and that there's all sorts of methods and styles to give the bear a unique look and its own personality. I'm continuing to shape the bear by defining the snout and then making a notch on the lower side of the ears. And it does help to hold the saw snugly against your body to stabilize it. Now let's talk a little bit about safety.
Whenever you're working with a chainsaw, it's really important to have all the necessary safety equipment. You're going to want a good helmet, a face guard, ear protection, goggles, Kevlar pants, steel-toed boots, and some leather work gloves.
And as you can see, I cut out a notch on the lower side of the head, and I'm removing wood between the ears and shaping them. I'm still blocking out the head with some bigger cuts to help distinguish the facial features. And you'll notice I switched to a smaller saw for a bit, which is a little easier to handle. This is a steel 017. Here I'm using the saw to draw where the arms will go. Then I'll start shaping the back side of the bear. Now this process is fairly quick. I like to create the small of the back by removing some of the wood, and then I'll carve from the back side under the bear's bum to shape the legs. Then I'll run the saw all the way around the log to make it look like the bear is perched on a log when we're all complete. I'm continuing to shape the sides of the legs here. Next, I'm going to separate the legs. I'll run the bar of the chainsaw all the way through the log, and once that's done, I can notch out more material so the bear's legs are at a shoulder width stance. I just keep removing a little material at a time. Then I'll move on to keep shaping the bear's back and the sides. I'll make a cut in to create the top of the feet. Then I'll remove a chunk of the wood by making an angled cut, which will start shaping the front side of the legs and the belly. Here I'm creating some dimension for the shoulders and arms by removing material up to the lines drawn in the log. I remove a little material at a time as needed until it starts looking the way I want it to. Continue notching out the neck, shaping the ears, and rounding the head. I typically cut a slot in the back to allow the wood to expand and contract, and to minimize stress on the wood to prevent further cracking. Now, a lot of people ask me what exactly inspires a guy to get into carving bears out of wood with a chainsaw. So let me tell you. Well, when I was a kid, we took a family trip to Alaska, and one day we were walking around Homer, Alaska after doing some deep sea fishing, and we saw a guy carving a bear. Well, my parents bought it, we named it Homer, and I always thought it was neat watching this guy carve some bear out of wood. So a number of years later, I was gifted a book called Chainsaw Carving a Bear while I was going to school at the University of Nebraska. And after looking through it, I went down to Home Depot and I bought the cheapest electric chainsaw I could find, which was $40. And I didn't have a log to carve, so I just cut up a 2x12 board and glued it together to form a block. And this first piece I gifted to my parents. Then I reached out to a guy named Mark who professionally chainsaw carves in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's a super nice guy and he gave me all sorts of tips. Well, with what I learned, I carved my second bear, followed by an 18-foot tall squirrel for my grandma. And since I've just been carving bears and some other wildlife as gifts for family and friends, and it's been so much fun. So that's my story, and for tips, I definitely say get the book and just watch as many videos as you can. All right, let's sharpen the chainsaw blades, get fueled up, and get back out there. I'm using a chainsaw with a tip the size of a dime to carve out the inside of the ears. I basically kind of rotate it from side to side. Then I'll cut the nose or the snout down a bit more, and there are a few more cracks in this log from the get-go than I typically like, but I'm going to make it work. And the fun part is, no two bears are ever the same. Here I'm defining the shoulder and arms to make them stand out a little bit more. Then I'll cut a space between the paws and the body of the bear, and finally I'll cut small slots to form the claws. I'll start adding some fur texture to the bear by lightly pressing the bar against the wood. This takes a little practice to get the technique down, but it's actually really easy once you get the hang of it. Here I'm cutting slots for the claws on the feet, and then I'll clean up the base of the log by removing the bark or the outer coating around it. I'm cutting a little line to make the mouth and a triangle toward the top for the nose. Then I'm using the end of the bar to create a recessed area around the eyes. And once this is done, we can move on to the finish work. So shake off that sawdust and get out the angle grinder. I'm using an 80 grit flap disc on the grinder to clean up the snout area and the mouth. I'm going to remove the bear from the plywood base by taking out the screws, and then I'll finish sanding over the fur on the bear to give it a nice smooth feel. I'll use a blowtorch to turn the inside of the ears, the nose, the mouth, and claws black. Then I'll sand around those areas to clean up the spots I didn't mean to get. And now, if you really wanted to give a bear a lot of color quickly, a weed torch could be used to tackle large areas fast. I brushed on 2 coats of a dark colored stain and then made a welcome sign. To make the sign, I'm freehanding the word welcome and then using my chainsaw with a dime-sized tip to carve on the lines. Take your time with this process and work one letter at a time. Then I move the saw blade back and forth to make the letters stand out on the sign. A quick sanding, and then the letters are ready to be torched. Lastly, I brushed on a couple coats of spar urethane to protect the bear and the welcome sign. Then I glued the eyes on one by one, and finally added the welcome message. I hope you enjoyed learning about the process of chainsaw carving and that all your projects are going well. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you found it helpful. For more DIY inspiration and project ideas, please subscribe to the channel and check out some of the other videos. Click on the left thumbnail to see a flashback to 2009 of one of my first ever YouTube videos about carving a larger bear, and on the right thumbnail for a 2013 chainsaw carving spoof I made with a couple friends. For more photos and links to the tools and supplies used in this video, check out DIYPete.com/chainsaw carving. Thanks again for watching, and cheers from Montana.